Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. We're here once again to discuss, unfortunately, another defeat. Gary O'Neill is somehow still the manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers, which I'm sure we'll talk about. As always, my name is David Zapardi, and do not adjust your screens. You do see a rare Finn Morris on your phone devices. Finn, how you been keeping, man?
I'm all right, thank you, mate. Yeah, it feels a little bit David Brent. I didn't want you to give me too big of a reveal if it's the sort of good news, bad news. Good news, Finn's back. Still thinking about the bad news, so how many losses in a row. But yeah, good to be back. Shame it's not on happy circumstances, but I don't think there's a point this season where I could have jumped back in at a happy moment, is there really? So
no, not really.
Couldn't really pick my timings, but
That's good. It's good to have you back, mate. It's good. A few people probably inserting the Ian Wright meme here as well, to seeing you back on their screens as well. So good to have you back. We've also got Mr. Jord Russell as well. Jord, how you keeping, man?
Yeah, mate. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, as good as I can be within the football, as you know. To be fair, as you guys know, when Wolves are playing badly, you normally get people knocking on the door asking for opinions and stuff like that. So the last 2 mornings, I've had to get up early to go on BBC WM. And part of me is a bit gutted because I'm losing a bit of sleep. But the other part of me, I'm getting up early. I've been to the gym early both days. So, I mean, it's working a little bit at the moment. So,
every cloud.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Matt, unfortunately, is not with us. He's reprising his role as the older brother in Home Alone this week, so he's not going to be on the podcast. And Joe, unfortunately, is stuck at work as well, so he can't join us. But we've had 2 games, unfortunately, 2 defeats since the last podcast, lads. We won't really touch too much on the Everton game because I think, that's been and gone. It's been nearly a week ago now, and we sort of all know how disastrous that was, and we don't want to depress people even more. But Wolves unfortunately lost again yesterday evening against West Ham United. It was dubbed the El Sackico, but somehow both managers are going to remain in charge. Very quickly before we move on, lads, we had some news just a short while ago before we started recording from pretty reputable sources that Gary O'Neill is going to be staying at Wolves for the foreseeable future. Jord, I'll start with you on this one. This is quite a surprising piece of news. You look at the fixtures. I mean, on paper, it would have been a nice run of fixtures for a new boss to have, even if they got the job a couple of weeks ago. But now, Ipswich next week, this weekend, Leicester the following weekend. These are massive fixtures, and if Gary O'Neill is going to be given the opportunity, they're 2 must-wins for Wolves. Wolves have got to have 6 points at the end of these 2 weeks, haven't they?
Yeah, I think it's 6 points minimum at this point. And look, I think it baffles me why he's still here. Mm-hmm. I know you can say like the players are fighting for me. I want to be here. The players are sort of sticking up for him, but the form this year in this calendar year is abysmal, and it has been. Yeah. And we sort of made excuses for it at the beginning of the start of this calendar year, where he's playing like Leon Chouameni and Nathan Fraser and all these sort of players because we just didn't back him in January, and it could have been a bit different. For me, he looks like a bloke who's just got nothing left to give. Like, it looked like he had almost like tears in his eyes a little bit during when he was sort of clapping the fact there was a close up of him at West Ham yesterday. The real reason why Gary O'Neill's still here is quite simply Fosun. 2 things actually. Fosun don't want to pay him out, and secondly, anyone that we'd want to be the Wolves manager doesn't want to come here. Because it's awful. Like how the club's been run, the ownership have bled every last penny they can out of Wolves over these last couple seasons. I think it was made £117 million in transfers since 2023. I always said, and I've said it on this podcast many times, I just think in the Premier League you've always got to have a net positive spend of 100 million just to stand still. And this has been coming for a long time now. It catches up with you at some point. It happened to, going way back when, it happened to Charlton, it happened to West Brom, dare I say it, happened to Leicester, happened to Southampton. But Southampton were very similar to us, I think, in terms of when they had that team where they'd have Alderweireld, Lallana, Van Dijk, Mane, Tadic. They had this conveyor belt of players that everyone wanted, and they just kept selling the best players. And you get recruitment wrong once in a window, you're fucked. And that's literally what's happened to us in the summer. Recruitment's, sell Neto and Kilman, don't replace them. The quality's, regressed massively in the team, and there's only one real place you can point the blame there, and that's Fosun. And if you want to chuck Matt Hobbs and you want to chuck Gary O'Neill into that as well, be my guest. I think it's two separate things when it comes to the manager and the ownership. I think the ownership are a disgrace. I think it's disgusting what's going on at this football club at the moment, and I just don't think the manager's good enough.
Yeah,
Put that together, you've got a failing football club.
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot of people probably listening to my reaction on YouTube last night. May or may not have been fueled by a little bit of neck oil as well, to be honest, because I think everything just poured out as I got home yesterday. I've calmed down a little bit now, to be fair, but I think I pretty much stick by everything that I said during that video. But I think you're right, Jord. I think we can be upset with the manager because ultimately, there were people talk to me saying, "Oh, well, VAR shafted this, and this." I said, "But VAR doesn't defend our set pieces, does it? That's just basic. The fact that Wolves have conceded those time and time again." Finn, what are your thoughts on it? Because we haven't really heard much off you, obviously, this season. What are your thoughts on the current management situation, both from Fosun, Jeff Shee, and obviously in the dugout with Gary O'Neill and co as well?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think you've missed much with my thoughts because I've gone back and forth. The thing is, there's not one sole party to blame. As in, no one is blameless in this whole thing. But I think you naturally just want to go to one to throw all your energy at it. And throughout the season, I'd have probably picked fights with 4 or 5 different people. So you haven't lost much value in missing my opinion. But I think I've come to the conclusion that obviously more are blameless than others. But it's a horrible, horrible mix, as George just said, of a bit of everything. The only thing that's probably let us off a little bit this year is VAR. It was sort of a different feeling yesterday that there were contentious VAR decisions to direct a bit of anger at. If you'd have chucked last season's look in with that, it would have been the biggest cesspit of disaster. But as you say, Gary O'Neill, he's not fully to blame, but me and you were both in that Everton away end. Every corner we got, every corner we conceded, it got to the point where we cheered like a goal when they cleared that final one out, didn't they? When we didn't concede from a corner. And things like that are just insane. So this is what's going around in my head. I'm going, obviously, he hasn't exactly been sold a lie like Julian was. I'm sure he was told at the time, we're going to need to make a profit. And I was listening to TalkSport today because we hear different things on the FFP side of things, don't we? And they were saying, they were still adamant that we've got FFP problems and it's because of FFP. But we've pretty much been told the opposite for a good 6 months to a year now, which is leading to the anger towards Fosun. So no one knows fully. I know you guys have done a good job of it. I don't know fully who to shout at. And it's got to the point where at the home games, everyone's given up shouting. It's a horrible, horrible atmosphere. Everyone's given up because due to a mix of all these factors. I'm even confusing myself in my brain now. I don't know where we're going. You beat Ipswich. It's just like when we beat Fulham. I put out, we're on a title charge. But you get these 6 points. It's going to be fine. But listening back to you guys last week, you said minimum 4 points out of these 2 games. It's been 0. The defending was a shambles at Everton, but what's changed has been no consequences. And I look at the other candidates that are out there for Gary O'Neill to replace Gary O'Neill. And I think if I was in that position, I'd maybe keep him. There's no one jumping out on me. I've seen rumours of Solskjaer today, and they were scraping the barrel. So, sorry, that was a ramble, and it's been 6 months of thoughts going around in my head to get them all out there. But as we've just seen, it's good timing for the podcast. He's in for this foreseeable future. We've got to act on that now. And 6 points, and it's looking a little bit clearer. But if we lose against Ipswich at home, I think maybe people will start to voice their disillusion at the moment, especially where I am now in the Upper North Bank. I've changed seat, and it's just silence. It's just utter confusion at where we are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably like you, Finn. I'm sort of in the same camp where you don't know where to turn. You want
someone to be fully to blame, just to shout at them.
Yeah, it's just so many factors because the playing squad, you could, there's talented footballers out there that aren't playing to the best of their abilities, just daft errors, and then you start to look towards the actual the head coach, or then there's things behind the scenes where he hasn't been backed properly. They're peed off the fans from day one with the season ticket prices and so on. So it's just not nice. I think the club needs a bit of a refresh, and that's why it intrigues me, the sort of news today, Jord, because I think I was gobsmacked that on last Thursday night we didn't see communication that he'd been moved on, Gary O'Neill. I was gobsmacked this morning that we didn't see any communication, and then sort of about 9:15 we saw that he was staying on. But the story seems to change, and this is the one thing. Like last night, and pretty much for the last 6 or 7 days, we've had communication that Wolves are actively looking to replace him. And then all of a sudden, and we had the same last night, and then all of a sudden now they're wanting to back him. I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that, like we've already mentioned, there were head coaches that they've probably spoken to that don't want to touch the club at the moment with a barge pole. But then all of a sudden, well, I would have assumed that some of these managers wouldn't touch us because they're not going to get backed in January. But then we're having some reports that Gary O'Neill is going to be backed by the amount of money. I don't know, but nobody really knows what's going on. I do wonder if Gary O'Neill's words last night, which I watched his full post-match press conference, and it sort of made me calm down a little bit. And I put in one of the group chats this morning, why does everyone all of a sudden feel sorry for Gary O'Neill? Because we're all slagging him off 24 hours ago, and then everyone feels sorry for him now. But a lot of what he said did resonate with me in his post-match press conference. Do you think those words have had an effect on the likes of Hobbs and Jeff Shee ultimately, who is the final decision maker in this? To give this guy a chance. You don't get loyalty in a head coach like that from a board, especially with the run of results that he's had over the last 12 months or so.
I think it's more so the fact of when they got rid of Bruno Lage a couple of seasons ago, and they put Steve Evans in interim charge. Sorry, it's not Steve Evans, Steve Davis, wasn't it?
Steve Davis.
Steve
I was going to say Steve Evans.
That's who we might get. Yeah, that's what I was literally saw someone say about Steve Evans. Sorry, Steve Davis. It's been a long day. It's been a long day at work. Apologies, everyone listening. Before you get me on that. So yeah, obviously Steve Davis come in, and it was probably meant to be. It was a caretaker thing, right? But it ended up going on so long because they ultimately wanted Lopetegui. Then he turned us down because his father wasn't well at the time, and then we ultimately waited it out and got him after Michael Beale turned us down. I think it's more so the fact of they haven't got a clue what they're doing. Like Brighton's the perfect example. They always say it. They've got 3 candidates lined up for the next managerial job every time because they've got people that play the same sort of way. Stylistically, nothing's really going to change that much. They appreciate that if they do well, that manager's going to be taken on, and it's just a cycle. And they talk about we want to become like a self-sustaining football club. We want to be like Brighton. We could be anything fucking less like Brighton if we tried. It's embarrassing. And again, where I'm going back to, I think the club are culpable because they haven't got this succession plan in place. I'd have thought they'd have sounded out managers for on the basis of like Gary O'Neill was getting linked with West Ham in the summer. Gary O'Neill got linked very loosely with the England job. Even I think got linked with going in that. Was it Man United as an assistant manager as well at one point, or coach?
Yeah.
Something random story. So you would have thought there would be that have already got some succession planning in place. That's where I think that's where Hobbs don't get off lightly at all, because that's his job. Like it really should be like he should know what's going on if this happens and this eventuality. Ultimately, Fosun don't want to give Gary O'Neill £5 million and not have a replacement lined up for a month, because then we haven't got a manager. If we get rid of Gary O'Neill, who in turn is going to take the job? Because if you get rid of Gary O'Neill, you're likely going to get rid of Sean Derry. You're likely to get rid of all that backroom stuff. So then you, like say, you're left with Steve Davis probably having to take it again, and he doesn't want it. So it's like, well, we are the most unattractive football club to join right now. And like you say, people can talk about Moyes, Potter, Constance, all these names. You're living in fucking dreamland if you're getting anyone like that. I would love David Moyes at this football club. He ain't coming here. Why would he? We ain't got a pot to piss in. And that's not because we can't afford it. It's because the owners have just turned all the taps off. So the only sort of manager you get in here is someone who's going to do it on the cheap and's got something to prove. Like, I know we've been linked with Corberan in the press. Like, I don't think he's going to come here. I don't think even if he got offered the job, why would he come here? Like, I just don't get it. I know Albion isn't exactly the biggest, they haven't got massive amounts of money to spend in a transfer window either, but I think he could wait out and get a different job. And this is where sort of I tweeted last night, someone like Mark Robbins. I think Mark Robbins did a good job at Coventry. It's not an exciting appointment by any stretch of the imagination, but he's out of work. He'll be relatively cheap. And he'd probably go, you know what? If we go down, if Wolves go down, that's a fantastic club to have in the Championship to start rebuilding with anyway. So that's the sort of clientele and manager we're going to be after. That's just the fact of it. So I think we just need to accept that it's Gary O'Neill or an option like that, and we can keep £5 million in the back pocket from a Fosun perspective. That's what Fosun looking at as, because you can't tell me it's a footballing decision to keep Gary O'Neill when we are where we are in the league and the calendar year form is where it is. It just makes no sense to say it's a footballing decision. It's financial.
It's interesting because there were purely off reports, but John Percy had put that in terms of financially to sack the manager or appoint a new manager, that there was no problem with that. But I do agree partly with what you're saying there, because a lot of the time it has come down to things like that. They had to spend an absolute fortune to move Lopetegui on, and then obviously had to bring in O'Neill quite quickly. I think player power, Finn, is having quite a big impact on this because they're quite vocal with how supportive they are of the manager. We will talk about the West Ham game a little bit more shortly, but one of the main things was we saw Mario Lemina lose his cool towards the end of the game. Well, it was after the game actually, and sort of square up to Sean Derry. A little bit more than that actually, and we saw that apology from Lemina on Instagram today. But I do think that there's something with this squad at the moment where they do really side with Gary O'Neill. He seems to be very, very positive still that he can get something out of these players. I really hope it can just click and fall into place, and Saturday would be a great time for it to do so. But do you think that again is one of the factors? What do you think are the factors that are keeping Gary O'Neill in this job at the moment?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think with us now being old and ugly enough, we're mid-20s now, Dave. We've seen that cycle of football in the sort of the signs of when a manager's going to go. So you'd say Everton, for example, were in there, the chants, the boos. Okay, right, this is his last game. You'd say his press conference was a bit of a right. You can have it. You can have it. The man who makes me the teas every day, they're shit. You can have it. Like, it was almost like a sort of last speech. So you go, right, he's going to go there. And every time we've seen a sign of, oh, that's got to be it. Or some games where maybe we have conceded late on and it's, the players aren't playing for him anymore. None of them have actually come to fruition and he's gone the next day. Like you say, you expected it the Thursday. We maybe expected it this morning or whenever. So it's confusing for us as fans because we've seen all the signs and nothing's happened. I agree on the players. They do, like Zhao's reaction. Was it to the yellow card or just one of the fouls? You could see he was fuming. Like, it's better to have a team like that. And again, with the captain, as the said captain on what we were talking about, I don't think we've got that balance right in years with the captain since Neves, in that you've had a captain in Kilman who wasn't expressive, wasn't vocal, and you say, okay, right, we want a bit more of a Conor Cody, like in that you want more personality, more, and you've gone the opposite end with Lemina, who's maybe too emotional or a little bit mardy when things don't go his way. We kind of need someone in the middle, and we haven't quite nailed down a captain for a good few years now, but I think I'd probably prefer would you prefer your captain to be squaring up to assistant? I was about to say I would more than Kilman, but maybe not. But yeah, as you say, it does show that they haven't quite thrown the towel in, and it's just a really confusing mix of every factor, and nothing makes sense. As I said, it's led to that sort of apathy in the fan base.
But I think, to add sort of what you're saying there, Finn, sorry, Dave, is like when you talk about player power, and I think that might be a thing, right? But I think there's one reason why the players keep coming out vouching in support for Gary O'Neill is they've got it too easy on the training pitch. He's like the mates with them all. There's no way on God's green earth, like there's nothing, there's no data to suggest there's an upturn in form within this with what's going on with this team at the moment. Nothing. And I know that again, we called him out last week a little bit in terms of Gully, in terms of some of the stuff he does for the channel and stuff. And he truly believes like there is an upturn and we are doing positive things and all this sort of stuff. I just don't see it. I just think, it's almost insanity doing the same, same things over and over again and expecting different results. It's not going to work. We know what's going to happen if we keep with this sort of same management structure in place. So for me, I think the players have got it far too easy. And for Mario Lemina as well, honestly, I think it was a disgrace, his actions last night. I think it was all awful. Awful look. It's embarrassing. Like, it's just far too emotional, far too chaotic. And you can't be going head to head with your assistant manager. He was and before that, I know people saying, Sean Derry sort of lent his head in to sort of berate him a little bit. But I don't think he did massively. He didn't go to try and drop the nut on him at all. I think he's basically saying, mate, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get down the tunnel before you make a tit of yourself. But he like pushed Semedo off, pushed Totti off. And like, I sort of like ad-lib read sort of what happened when they showed the Bowen and Lemina incident. Like Bowen's gone to shake Lemina's hand and like Lemina's sort of like brushed it or like, I don't know, he's pulled it a little bit.
I think he
Bowen's,
wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Bowen's gone mate, why aren't you shaking my hand? Then it all just went off and exploded. That's sort of my interpretation of why that happened. And it's just, look, he's a great footballer. I think he's a great character in terms of, since he's been at the football club as well. Like the stuff that he did last year with, I forgot they got a little guy's name now.
I know you mean.
I forgot the little kid's name. You know what I'm about though, when he was doing all that stuff like the Mario Lemina stuff, and great, love all that. But he's not been a good captain, not been a good leader for us this season. And again, it's just another bit of chaos to add to the mix where you just go in, this is bad. Like, this for me right now feels just as bad as when we went down under McCarthy with Roger Johnson and Carl Emery's shit and all that sort of. This is what it feels like. It's a chaos. It's chaotic. It's massive. Yeah. It's like we're reliving. Like when was it? 2011 again. Genuinely feels like we've gone back in time.
It is like that. Like, when you're struggling, ideally you want to be staying out of the headlines for the wrong reasons. You want to be focusing on trying to sort things out. But then stuff like this, after a defeat, after you've conceded another set piece goal, and then you have that to add to it, it just it puts unneeded eyes and unneeded attention on the current situation. Really, I think there was a bit of I think Lemina, look, visibly he's upset, which you want your captain to be upset. You don't want to see him laughing and smiling after the game, of course. But there's a level of respect that you need to have. I think not just. Okay, it's all well and good you give Jared Bowen a bit of a crap handshake, but I think the way that he treated the rest of his teammates and the way he was quite forcibly pushing certain players away, I thought it was unneeded from a captain. I think you do that, Bowen has a word with you and you're like, shit, sorry, okay, and then you sort of level your head. And we need that level-headedness. We need the little bit of bit more serious and to get his head down and knuckle down a little bit more. But I mean, we've spoken about the West Ham game, lads. We'll jump onto it now. It's quite an intriguing lineup by Gary O'Neill again. You just can't seem to find that best 11. And although he's stuck with certain personnel at times over the last number of weeks, it's just not quite worked out. And we saw a different sort of shape again yesterday with both Matt Doherty and Nelson Semedo starting. Semedo obviously was suspended for the game last week against Everton. He's come back in. Finn, we saw something similar to this against Burnley, I believe, away last year, where Semedo and Doc both played and almost both rotated from that right centre-back to that right wing-back role. But in general, again, the sort of João Gomez, Andre Lemina experiment just hasn't seemed to work, although he can come away from that this weekend. I think João Gomez is suspended for the Ipswich game after picking up another caution. But what did you make of that lineup? And what did you think of the start to the game for Wolves? Because, of course, we went in at half-time 0-0, created a couple of half-decent opportunities, but Doc seemed to have quite a little bit of joy. It was almost watching the Doc of old, bombing down that right-hand side.
Yeah, and to be honest, I thought he was pretty good going forward, at least at Everton as well. Like the few positive sparks we had were pretty much from Doc, so I didn't mind it too much. It's square pegs, round holes, isn't it? I mean, Semedo's not in the right of a back three, or does he shift around into a four? Either way, if you're doing that, you've got Ait Nouri in a flat back four, which we don't normally like to see. So again, none of it fits really nicely. But if you're scrapping for your life and you've got a player that's shown a bit, I didn't mind Doc playing there. And again, came away with a goal. I said something before the game to a few of my mates in a chat about Deherto Carlos to score, and he did just that. But the three in midfield, I can't think of a successful Wolves three midfield in a long, long time. Maybe Dendoncker, Neves, Moutinho for that short period where we just about got through when you had Jimenez and Jota up front. And in theory, I know they're not similar players, but if you left Cunha and Strand Larsen to be those two and sat with that rigid five across with the wing backs, you think of the ability in there with Lamina, João and Andre. You've got different abilities in there. Maybe say Lamina and João are quite similar, but you could say that about Moutinho and Neves in different ways. So it just hasn't clicked. I think we all can see by now that three doesn't work. I thought Tommy Doyle did well when he came on as well. So whether he could be chucked in a mix if we do want to play a three. But the lineup, it was strange. I didn't know how he'd go if it was going to be his last game. I didn't know whether he'd go right, flat back four, let's chuck a few of a Guedes in there or a Hwang or a Rodrigo Gomez. And he didn't go for that. He went a little bit more cautious. And the game was a bit of a bore fest. It wasn't a great one for the neutral. So that was the tactic. And obviously it didn't work. I don't think it'd have worked if we'd have gone with the flat back four, to be honest. I think we'd have probably got ran all over. So, I to be honest, in conclusion, fair. I wasn't up in arms, or I wasn't thinking that we were going to win either. So again, apathy.
I think it was one of those where, because we've not seen the best, or we've not seen the quality from these players throughout the whole season, that I think there's a lot of players in that squad that I think we know we can get more out of, and we haven't seen it enough. So I think every time the lineup comes out, I'm really not sure what to think of it.
Yeah.
Like, he could chuck Forbes and Hwang in on Saturday for argument's sake, and they'd be like, have they proved enough this year? But at the same time, they probably deserve, because, he needs to mix it up. It's one of those, because I don't think Gary O'Neill has seen his best 11, but he doesn't know what his best 11 is either. I think he's trusting his gut a little bit. But Jord, throughout predominantly the first half, like I said, Wolves created a couple of decent half chances. João Gomez had a great one at the back post. He probably should have got on target. I think maybe put off a little bit by the pressure of the defenders. But you could tell it was a really cagey affair. I think it was two teams who knew they needed points. Two managers set these teams up who knew they needed points as well. It was just quite cagey and just almost like a risk-free first half where, these teams just wanted to make sure they didn't make any errors, didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, it was a nothing first half. And again, like when you're down there, it happens. And especially when you're away from home as well, you can sort of allow that to happen. I thought, ultimately, I know I said about the blueprint to win at Goodison Park is keep them quiet for a bit and then go and build from there. It was the same really at the London Stadium. Like, keep them quiet and go from there. And I think we actually did a very good job of that in the first half. I think they were starting to turn on Lopetegui a little bit. It was starting to get a bit angsty. I thought it was always going to be a difficult start with all, obviously, the Antonio news and stuff. I thought they'd be bang up for it. And I think they were the first sort of 10 minutes or so, especially with that applause and stuff. And then just when you feel like you've done a lot of sort of hard work, or at least you've sort of killed the game a little bit, killed the atmosphere in the game, that goal they conceded after half time, Souček header, like, he's the biggest fucker on the pitch. It's the only thing he's used. That's the only thing he's useful for. I don't actually think he's a good footballer. I never have, but he always seems to get on the end of things. It reminds me of like a Czech Dave Edwards. Honestly, that's how I see Thomas Souček. And to give him that much space, it's schoolboy. And again, another calamity of this whole season, the set piece coach that we got and then got rid of because we were conceding set piece goals. I think the set pieces have got worse since the set piece coach left.
Yeah, they have.
It's 5 in 2 games, yeah.
So I don't think he was the fucking problem. He was just a fool guy at the time to go, yeah, you know what, we lost a few games. This youngster ain't really, he's not one of us anyway. He's just come in, we'll get him out. It's his problem, don't worry about it.
I bet he's laughing at home, by the way, isn't he? He's laughing his head off. Of course he is, yeah. He'll be getting paid. He'll still be getting paid by the club, sit at home and watch them concede fucking goals like that. It's mental. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And again, whoever came up with that decision, I think that is more of a Gary O'Neill decision about getting rid of him or whatever happened between the lot of them. That's an answer I would love to get because I don't know
it's got fucking worse. Like you can't. It wasn't the problem in the first place. But he's got worse. It's got worse and worse.
I don't know how true it is. I saw someone post a stat. Apparently, last season we didn't concede from a set piece till January, and now what we conceded, it's a record high in the. What is it? I tweeted about. I think it's 15 or 16 set pieces, which is a handful, if not more, than any other team in the league right now. The average is about 4. So we've conceded 10, 11 more than the average, which is ridiculous. Look, I don't think the team he lined up with yesterday is blessed with height. You got Santi Bueno, Totti Gomez, who fairly big guy, but other than that, there's not a huge amount of height. But it was criminal that like you said, Jord, he's the biggest guy on the pitch, and to leave him with that much space, I think Johnson could probably do a little bit better in terms of position, a little bit flat-footed, but ultimately, Souček's got so much time and space just to put that header wherever he wants it, really.
But you don't have to be 6'4" to win a header off a corner, and you're not going to win every header off a corner. You can at least compete and nudge people off, put people off.
Difficult, yeah.
He's on his own, 6'4" at the back post on his own. Like, what are we doing? Like what? Like, it's just basics. It's fundamentals. You don't need a fucking diploma in football coaching or anything like that to think, oh, well, that's okay, that's acceptable. If that happened on a Parks pitch, that happened on like a Sunday League team, you'd be going absolutely mental that someone just let that happen. It's shocking. It's so bad. And some things you can sort of take. I think some things you go, you know what? For the second goal, for example, I think it's just great play by Bowen. Like, I think Guedes could do a bit more, definitely, but it's a great finish. You can accept pieces of quality in this league. It's going to happen. There's going to be goals that go against you. You can't really do loads about. But that, like, kids, like, that wouldn't happen like mini soccer. Like 5-6-year-olds, pick a fucking man up, stick with it.
I made sure when I coached, I made sure that like defending set pieces, like as soon as the ball went out, you were organised and you made sure if you've got a man, you stick with him. And if it, like you said, Jord, you both competing with the ball and you lose an aerial duel, okay, fair enough. It's a good header. They've scored a goal, but to give somebody that amount of space, not even compete to win it back, I think it's just so frustrating. You would have if I was in Gary O'Neill's shoes here and you've seen the set piece record, you've got to be spending some extra time fucking sorting that out. Like, sure, what are they doing on the training pitch with set pieces? If this is, we don't even look threatening ourselves when we're attacking set pieces.
No, we're not on the other side. No, we're not.
It's just so frustrating. Whereas it was almost, I don't think we've ever been blessed sort of from corners or set pieces. To be honest, I can't think. And for a number of years where we haven't really had a good run of causing
Barry
teams
Douglas.
problems. That was it.
Douglas,
that was it really. But free kick on the edge of the box under Neves with Neves or Barry Douglas, you're thinking, fucking hell, get in, mate. Hit now. I don't trust anybody to. I don't even trust anyone to beat the first man, let alone whip a free kick in top bins. It's frustrating because that's such a powerful part of the game, defensively and attacking wise. You can get a lot out of a football match if you can perfect that, and we are far from that. And thankfully, Finn, we got ourselves back in the game. You mentioned him earlier, Docerto Carlos, or what you called him. Like I said, he bombing up and down that pitch looked a bit of a threat. Right after half time, there was a chance really where Aït-Nouri whipped it across. It wasn't a great cross, but that was just 40 seconds into the second half. A better cross there. Doc could be on the end of that. We go 1-0 up. It's a completely different match, but this is something he can offer, and it's probably something that Semedo we haven't seen enough of since he joined us from Barcelona, is having your right wing back in and around the area and able to put it in the back of the net. And it's just another sort of vintage Doc goal, really.
Yeah, I mean, for all his faults, he's phenomenal at it. At that first Nuno season, he was in everyone's FPL team, wasn't he? And if he does get to the box, his desire to get back was often left us wanting a little bit. He's not the perfect footballer, but for things like that, he's brilliant. And to be fair, when you're talking about not winning headers, it was nice to see that old sort of Nuno era goal kick to the right for Doc to nod on. It was a real nostalgic performance, as you said, and shame it didn't result in anything positive in the end. But yeah, that was Matt Doherty really. Assists for, speaking about FPL, assist points for Aït-Nouri on what was otherwise a poor day as well. So decent few minutes. But I saw a stat. I think Joe put it out, didn't he? That when we then score a goal, our last 3 goals that we've scored, we've conceded within 5 minutes. So our moments of joy as Wolves fans again have been very, very short lived. So in that moment, I cracked a smile, and how foolish I was to even believe a little bit.
What's the old saying? You're most vulnerable after you score a goal, and that's we've seen that from Wolves. It's just so poor, Jord. I mean, again, once or twice is acceptable, but for 3 goals, 3 games on the bounce or whatever is just that's not good enough. And I think the Bowen goal get decent enough finish, but it's just far too easy for us to be allowing them to score. Straight after you got to settle down. You score a goal. Let's make sure we hold our shape for a little bit and grow back into the game and go from there. Build on it. But to chuck it away, get yourself back in the game within 3 minutes. Chuck it away. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and talking about FPL, I've had Jared Bowen all season, so it feels very dirty. But I did keep him in this weekend as well. Look, like I said, it's a great finish, a good bit of quality. I think Guedes is very, very bad. I think it's so easy.
Can I talk about Guedes? Sorry, very quickly.
Yes,
look, there was a bit of a clamour to get him starting football matches last week. I still haven't seen why off him. I just can't put my finger on it. I just don't think he's very good.
I don't think he does. The reason why he doesn't start is he doesn't do his defensive duties at all very well. And when he has played for us, it's more so been down the middle in the cup games when he started. And I think he's a good finisher, to be honest with you. But I don't think he does his defensive duties very well.
Other than that, you can't get in. I think, you talk about we had the Levi Jeans man of the match last week. I think if I bring in Matt Rockport man of the match, because I think he sometimes, I know he's got a bit of a turn of pace, but I think in terms of him trapping the ball and stuff like that, it's just like, I just watch him. I don't think he had a great game. No, I
don't think he had a great game. And I think he got away with it a couple of weeks ago, because I've wanted to bring it up on the podcast and forgot to. It was the Palace game, and I think Gay beat him way too easily for the equaliser. For their goal.
Sorry,
And if I'm Gary O'Neill, I'm going berserk at him for that. It was just how he just sort of backed off. He turned his back on the ball and fairy put a foot out. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough again at this level. Yeah. And that is an individual error. That's not something you can do on the coaching pitch. That's just him being a fucking pansy and not putting his body on the line for the football club. Again, you don't even have to. I'm not saying you have to be a big snotter or wear it and all that shows you. Just stand him up, be better, do better. Again, it's fundamentals, and it was just poor. And look, Bowens took the goal well as soon as he's been granted the space to be able to get a shot on target. But when you're down there, these things happen. It's just it's poor. And I think I said last week, I'm just so disillusioned with this football club right now and upset and whatever. I've got no words for what's happened over the last week since we last spoke, and I've got no words before we jumped on this podcast that again he's still in a job and all that sort of stuff. I just hope that Saturday, and again I don't think it'll happen because I think a lot of the hardcore fan base have chosen not to go to Molineux anymore, whether they've been priced out, just give it up. Football sanitised, again, to going back to sort of that McCarthy era, it was toxic with Moxie and Morgan. At that point, it was toxic. It was horrible. Fans were on the pitch, trying to get into the fucking the director's box. And I'm not advocating that sort of behaviour, by the way, but I just think Ipswich. I was I know people online saying Fosen out, Jeff Shee shouts. It won't happen. I just don't see it happening.
It's frustrating, very frustrating, I think, at the moment. And like I said, it feels like Groundhog Day every time we do the podcast. It feels like we're bringing up the same things, whether it's set pieces or whether it's how is he still in a job or Jeff Shee or... It's frustrating. I'm sure people listening, they're probably in the same boat. We'll quickly touch on the contentious decisions. There was probably 3, I would say, Finn. first one, no particular order. I think one was for the Bowen goal, was it actually? When Santi Bueno was fouled? Four. So the corner for their goal, I don't think was a corner for one. But I think it was Bowen's goal. Santi Bueno was fouled. For you, is there enough there for the goal to be overturned, Finn?
See, when they showed it on Sky, because it was one of the few away days that I haven't done, but it was good to watch it back on. Well, it wasn't actually in this occasion, because when they showed obviously the goal go in and Cunha and a couple of others chasing the referee, then replayed the goal, and I don't think they included the Bueno.
No, they didn't.
Like the passage with Bueno's fouls. They're going, and the Wolves players are going crazy. I was like, what are they going mad for here? Like, is someone in front of the keeper, possibly offside? So I thought, oh no, they're just moaning for moaning's sake. And then they showed it quickly, didn't they? And I only saw it the one time through. And obviously O'Neill said his thoughts on Santi Bueno's strength and things like that. But I wasn't screaming for it, to be honest, to the point where when you said there were 3 contentious decisions, I was scrambling for what that one was, because I was only thinking about the 2 penalties. So for me, I'm not too fussed on that one, but I have only seen it once very, very quickly.
No, probably... Again, I think it's one of them, and I think it's similar to the second one, Jord. I think it's Gedge. For me, I think you go to VAR, they don't give it. I think if the referee gives it on the pitch, I think it's you stick with that decision. But it's one of those grey area penalties, unfortunately, where if the referee on the pitch doesn't give it, and he didn't give us a hell of a lot yesterday, then I don't think you get them given.
Yeah, no, I think all 3 were to put them in the same bucket, to be honest with you. I think Bueno probably wasn't strong enough, and I think that's sort of what Gary O'Neill was probably alluding to in his post-match interview a little bit, and throwing him under the bus, which, again, I don't like it. There's obviously he obviously quite clearly didn't fancy Bueno that much when he tried to loan him out in the summer. The Gedge one, I think it's. I can see why it's a foul. I just don't think it's a stonewaller. Mm-hmm. And the Bellegarde one was probably for me more of a foul than the other 2.
I think
in our swing or in our favour, but it's sort of how he goes down. Like I think that's what killed him.
Yeah.
It doesn't like. It's not like it doesn't go down naturally. And credit to him to try and stay on his feet. And a foul's a foul, right? And I think that's sort of where you got to be a bit cuter and make more of a meal of it, I believe. But yeah, again, I think the way he's gone down and the fact he tried to stay on his feet, I think sort of killed him a little bit, because they're saying, well, it hasn't completely obstructed him getting. It's just not enough. I know that fans will probably say, no, it's a stonewall penalty. I think it's a foul. I just don't think as soon as the referee gives it one way on field, I don't think you're getting those sort of things overturned.
I think that one probably should have, and especially when they looked at it for a fair while. Only because I think with that one, it's a little bit more obstructive, probably obstructed the referee's view a little bit more, because there's a group of bodies there. It's a tangle of the legs almost, and he steps on his foot. The Gedge one, the referee's right behind it. You can see exactly what happened. And again, I do think that's a penalty, but I can completely understand why that didn't get overturned with VAR. But the Bellegarde one, I am really surprised, because I think that's one of those where you probably should go to the monitor and have a look at it. But ultimately, like I said, a lot of people would have blamed VAR, but ultimately, if you can't defend set pieces, that's what's going to happen for you. And after the game, we saw obviously the whole Lamina incident, which we've discussed. Gary O'Neill looked distraught. That looked like a broken man to me. That looked like a man who knew that he was going to be given his P45 at full time. But somehow, on the 10th of December at 7 p.m, he is still in charge of this football club. But we'll move on to the questions, lads, unless you've got anything else to add on the West Ham game. Like I said already, and like we said at the start, Wolves keeping Gary O'Neill on for the foreseeable future, depending on results. And apparently they do not believe O'Neill is solely responsible for the club's struggles, and they will make funds available to sign new players next month. I think it's very key, lads, as well, that these signings come sooner rather than later. We can't be scrambling over the last few days of Jan. You'd certainly hope, similar to the Cunha signing, we had him through the door 1st of Jan, Finn. Yeah. It's crucial that Wolves, if they want to remain a Premier League team, their hope and their possibility of doing that is getting shorter by the day. But, if they want to remain a Premier League club, they've got to have all their eggs in that basket and ready to roll on the 1st of Jan.
Yeah, I remember Cunha was about
I
halfway
think
through the
Christmas
advent
Day,
calendar,
was
wasn't
it?
he?
Did they announce that or something?
Yeah.
It might have been Boxing Day, Christmas Day, actually. Yeah,
was
I think you're
Christmas
right.
Day.
I remember that being sort of just ready to be done for a long while before the 1st of Jan, and obviously the centre back thing has been obvious for months. So obviously those conversations will have been going on. Obviously January is a horrible time to buy, but yeah, we've had a lot of time on that one, and it is a shame. I really wanted to see Mascara have a full season because I really liked him. Another one that was in my FPL. I have had to obviously give up with him now, with him out for the season. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird that we've had no links. I can't think of any. I know you're probably more up to date on that. I can't think of a single link to a centre back. Obviously, it's like, we need Premier League experienced centre back. I can't think of any rumours. That might be a good thing because we've sort of done it with no leaks, sort of Danny Ings to Villa-esque. Just if we hit the 1st of January and he's in the door. But yeah, maybe no news is good news on that one. But yeah, as you say, literally on the 1st would be, even that would be too late.
Yeah. Well, wait and see. I'm certainly hoping there'll be some more rumours and news in the next couple of weeks. It's going to get towards silly season. We saw silly season as well today, by the way. There was a Turkish account that was a joke account, by the way. If you actually, people spent time looking at his other tweets suggesting that Wolves had made an offer for Jose Mourinho, which some fairly reputable accounts had jumped on, by the way. And I had a few DMs saying, oh my God, have you seen Mourinho? He's coming to Wolves or been offered the Wolves job. And yeah, you just had to look at their pinned tweet where they said, oh, this manager isn't a cokehead. He doesn't wear turtleneck sweaters or something like that. That was their pinned tweet about some Turkish manager. And I thought, if you think this is a reputable source, then yeah, there you have it. We'll move on to the questions. Nuno's name is cropped up every now and then. I think it doesn't help when Forest are doing quite well. I'm not suggesting, by the way, he's been linked with the job in any way, shape or form. But Ronan Gibbons, in hindsight, was not hiring Nuno back when he wanted the job after Bruno Lage. A huge mistake. Look what he's doing with a bang average Forest side. And does anyone on the pod revert going Nuno out originally, or do you still feel like that was the right decision? And he's put, I was massively Nuno in. Now, I may be completely wrong. I know Matt, and he'll stick by it, was Nuno out, I think, after the West Brom game. I was very much open to giving Nuno another season, and I made that clear. And I've even said I cried at Molineux because I got a ticket for that United game when he left. Finn, I think you're sort of similar to me in these sort of counts. I'd assume, were you happy with Nuno, or at least happy to give him another chance?
Yeah, I've still got my.
And your thoughts on this, obviously,
somewhere in this room.
In hindsight, him maybe coming in last year or a couple of years ago.
Yeah, having heard from other sources from Nuno, I don't think he massively gets on with the Forest owners. But I also know that he didn't massively get on with the Wolves owners towards the end as well. So it's not as if he's going to be upgrading there. And I was the same. I was blindly loyal to him. Those years, it was sort of my real formative teenage-ish end to teenager years of football, and he was just a god to me. And it was a really poor season, that final season, and it did hurt a little bit when he looked so miserable at Wolves, and it was okay, maybe he wants to go back and see his family. He goes to Tottenham, gets a shave and puts the nice clothes on, and you're like, hang on, what's this all about then? So I did feel a little bit there what was going on, and maybe that was dealing with behind the scenes, I don't know. So yeah, obviously it does hurt. This season as a whole has been a real tester for Wolves, hasn't it? With Jimenez refinding form, Nuno. There's been several others that I can't think of now. Who was it? I suppose Gibbs White's slight success, but there's some others I can't remember them now. But I would always have a lot of time for Nuno. So if it did come about, in fact, last night I was in Tesco. And it came up on that Slow Sports News about Wolves.
I saw that.
Wolves in tour. And I literally, mate, no, drop the basket. And it really caught me. So in that moment, I suppose if I'm being honest, it excited me. Obviously, it wasn't true. So, yeah, I think I'd always welcome Nuno back. It might have to be with a change of ownership if that was to ever happen. And if there was, by the way, what a way to get the fans on side. Although maybe not Matt, but yeah,
I think there'll be again a strange split, and as we've seen with the Carlos Corberán rumours, which again that surprised me with the split of fans. There were actually quite a few Wolves fans that were open to that, and I don't know whether that was because they genuinely think he's a good manager or think they just want to wind up the West Brom fans. I don't know, but Jord, quickly going on to your, I'm not sure we had you on the pod during that sort of time frame, but what was your stance on that at the time?
I thought he had to go because I felt that last season was poor, and I genuinely thought that the team was there to go and repeat what he'd done previously in terms of we should be in and around that Europe conversation or that 7th, 8th place.
Yeah.
Well, 7th place at the time. It's now 8th. And I thought it was a poor season. I almost felt like you sort of sometimes just in football, things happen. You sort of outgrow each other a little bit. And you just need new ideas to freshen it up. And that was that. So I wasn't like massively staunchly, he's got to go. Because, again, he's been the most successful manager in all our lifetimes, put it like that. So, but when it come back around about him coming back after Large left, I think I was on the pod. Well, I would have been on the pod at that point, obviously. And I sort of liken it to, I just don't think you go back to an ex because you've got all those happy memories from before. And even if it slightly starts going wrong, it could like sort of taint sort of the good times you had. And I think him coming back, knowing the way he left, where there was rumours of him not getting on with Foden and more so Jeff, who seems to be the common denominator in all our problems, that it just was never going to make a happy relationship. But I'm happy to see him do well. I think, Forest are a good club. I thought he would be gone. I think I said at the start of the season he'd be the first manager sacked this season because I just thought him and Evangelos are just a car crash waiting to happen, just two fiery personalities, and he'd just get rid of him. But look, he's a good manager and he's got him. I can't say they're playing good football, but they're playing very pragmatic, effective football, which is exactly what we had at Wolves as well.
I would do anything to go back to the days where I could wake up on a match day and think we're going to fucking win today. Like I felt it every single match against under Nuno, especially that of COVID is the one thing like they killed that momentum. I've said it so many times, but that season I went in and thought we're going to do this team today. We're going to win this game today.
We had this discussion on the coach on the way to Everton, and this was before the game, before we'd even been smashed. We were having that same thing. There's a few lads I hadn't seen in a while, and it was like, do you remember those days where we'd get on this coach? It was like, we're going to win. We're going to win. There was even that interview with Doc, wasn't there, at the time, where it was like, we'd come out of the squad meetings thinking, we can't lose this next game.
Across two legs, we would have beat anybody in the world.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think we'd have, put money on it. I would still die on this hill. We'd have got to the Europa League final because over two legs we'd have got a result against anyone. Not saying we'd have won a final because it's on the day at that point, but I generally think we'd have won. I think we'd have got to the Europa League final.
Do you know what? I kick myself now as well. I really kick myself. I saved annual leave in the early rounds because I was like, oh no, I'll save it for the final. And obviously, like, it went into COVID and then had a load and only got to a few of the games. We did Espanyol away and we did Braga, didn't we, Dave? But yeah, we were just so confident at the time. But yeah, you don't know what you've got until it's gone, do you?
I know. I was just quickly looking because I saw a post earlier. Yeah, it's real. Sevilla posted last night a side managed by Lopetegui beating Wolves. We've never seen this before with a winky face. The Sevilla official page posted that. Someone posted it on Facebook earlier. I thought someone just on the wind up. I've just gone on their actual page. Yeah, but I've just gone on the Sevilla Twitter and it's like an actual thing. So,
but he's a hero there, and to be fair to him, he's like their Alex Ferguson, winning three in a row Europa Leagues. It's gets you that sort of status.
Waste man.
They won it that year, didn't they? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they won it.
They beat us, didn't
they? Yeah. Quickly. We've had a couple of questions like this, and I don't really like to talk about this. If we were to go down, I think Alex Moore and two Alexes actually, Alex Cooper's also said, if we were to go around, which sort of players would stick around in the Championship? Now, I'm not expecting you lads to reel off every single squad member, but maybe 3 names that would be sort of the top end players that you think in the current squad would stick around. I would say top end. I think Sam Johnson would still be here. I think Totti would stay. And probably Lamina would stay, although he could. He's out of contract towards the end of. No, I think Lamina would stay as well. Actually, Jord.
I think we go down say I do think we'll go down at this point, but if we do go down, I think Tommy Doyle is captain of that team.
Yeah.
I think that
I think Doc maybe as well.
I think Doc could stay around. I think the stars, you'd have Doyle. I think Pedro Lima would be playing every week, and Rodrigo Gomez.
Yeah, it'd be a fucking good team for that division. It should be anyway. What do you say, Finn? You agree, or do you think?
Can you imagine this buy-sell keep at the end? It's just going to be red,
Oh
red,
my
red,
god!
red.
Yeah. God, they're horrific. I'll have to postpone that this year.
Yeah. Yeah, just assume red. I don't know. I picture, and it's just been ultra negative, but I just picture, like, say, a right side of Lima and Rodrigo Gomez. If you had two bald 35-year-old championship stalwarts, I just picture that going terribly. But you had Costa, Cavallero, and Jota, and they held their
against Burton Albion.
They
Who
ran,
was it? Stephen Warnock was spat inside out.
Yeah, it was Vinagre. Vinagre, Cavallero. Yeah.
Was it Warnock
so maybe
or someone like that? I can't think.
Yeah, Stephen Warnock played from that day. Yeah, I could be wrong. I think Stephen Bywater was in goal for Burton as well that day.
Yeah, so fucking ropey, sorry. Right?
Like some proper names would have been in that team. John Brayford.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be all right then. Yeah,
maybe we'll be all right. Yeah.
I like the Tommy Doyle shout. I do like that. Is Dawson? Has he still got a year? Would he?
No, he's out. He's out at the end of the year, so I think he'll go.
Yeah, Larson, we probably have to sign him, won't we? But then will he just have to?
I bet there's a clause that if we get relegated, we won't sign him.
Yeah, I mean, there is a hell of a core there. It's getting me excited. We might win a few games. But
the thing is, and I think a lot of people will probably be at home thinking, "No way would he stay? No way." But then, to be fair, you look at some of the championship, like Leeds, for argument's sake, some big players like Junior Firpo's still there. You know, there's some Nonto's a great player.
Nonto's still there.
Yeah. Say again, sorry.
Did Lamina stay with Fulham when they went down? What do you?
Lamina? No, I think he was on loan.
I think he went to Nice.
Yeah.
He was on.
Yeah.
He went to Nice then, didn't he?
Who knows?
Yeah, you are going to, but it's going to ruin the model of buy low, sell high, is it? Because you're not going to get the same money for Cunha, Aït-Nouri, Andre.
Yeah, it's a risk, but
it's a killer. It's a real killer. I should stop talking.
God, imagine Cunha fucking in the championship. Oh god. Yeah, there's just loads of questions about that. Like, there was one that I liked. Amar's Music Show put one actually, as per. Not a Wolves question, but against Everton, the commentator said that Ashley Young may be playing against his son in the FA Cup, which, correct, he is. I think they drew Peterborough, which they're kicking off about a Thursday kickoff, which is a different story. If you were a footballer and played against your dad or son, would you be helpful to them or 2-foot them in the first minute to show them no mercy? I don't think you're helpful to them. I think you show them who's boss, don't you? Regardless of whether it's your dad or whether it's your...
It'd be easier
son.
to do it to your son than your dad. Oh, God, sounds weird out of context. But yeah, I think you're more likely to 2-foot your son, wouldn't you? I wouldn't want to... Would you want to 2-foot your dad?
2-foot your dad.
I'd be more likely to 2-foot my son, I think.
I think you showed... I mean, not going out and, Roy Keane in them, but you show him, you go, who's the daddy? You show him who's boss. I think. No? I mean, you're not going to pass the ball through to him to score, are you? So.
No.
No, you got to. Yeah, let's be honest. They are professionals at the end of the day. Ashley Young can't. He's going to be paid handsomely at Everton. He can't be like letting him just run through. Just go on.
Dropping the elbow on him in the box. Yeah.
Do you reckon there's any clips of at the end of the season when the kids go on the pitch and they sort of help the ball into the goal? Do you reckon there's any footage of Ashley Young actually doing
Probably.
that?
Oh, that's a great show. Yeah.
It'd be a great meme after the game.
I think Tom King did it with his kids last weekend at Wolves.
I saw Tom King on the pit. Yeah,
it was Tom King, I think. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know what was going on. Yeah. Garner's number one. Anyway, Danny B. I can't be asked to talk about football, but what's your favourite Christmas film? Now, this is weird. And I know I mentioned Home Alone earlier, and a lot of people are going to probably take the piss of this. You've always got those films where you sort of know the premise, you know the plot, and you've probably seen about 75-80% of it, but I haven't actually sat down and watched the whole thing all the way through. I think I've got that with a hell of a lot of Christmas films. And I said to my girlfriend the other day, I said, you know what? I don't think I've actually watched Home Alone properly ever in my life. So I sat down and watched it on Saturday
cool.
night, and I was creasing. I actually thought it was brilliant. So I need to watch the second one. But I like The Holiday. That's my sort of guilty pleasure, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my guilty pleasure, I think. I like The Holiday. But The Elf as well is another one. I don't think I've ever watched Elf all the way through. I don't. Again, I know the rough plot, but I don't know each scene by scene. But for me, the guilty pleasure is The Holiday. So, Jord, I reckon you've got a few shouts here. You're a die-hard bloke, you probably.
No, I'm not actually. I'm really not. I do think it's a Christmas film, but I'm not like massive on it. I've got two. So my two would be either The Grinch.
Yeah.
I think Jim Carrey's The Grinch is class.
Brilliant, yeah.
But actually, my sort of like nostalgic Christmas film is Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I'm not sure if I have now.
But I know it comes.
Oh my god! Yeah, so you've got to watch this. That's the next one.
Jingle All
So
the Way.
basically, yeah, his son wants the
the
Turbo Man
robot.
3000.
Yeah. I have seen that.
Turbo Man 3000.
I need to watch that again.
Then he has to, but he's sold out everywhere, and he has to go and get it. I think his son's called Tommy, and he has to go and.
Does he like dress up or something at the end, towards the end, as the robot?
He ends up dressing up as Turbo Man on the the street fair. Yeah,
Brilliant.
But like it's good. Like the Big Show's in it as well.
I'll have to watch that. That's
Like,
that's one of them that I have
Big Show.
watched, but probably not for many, many years. So,
Jord,
if anyone hasn't watched it, get it on there.
What do you say to the Rotten Tomatoes community that have given it 20%? Well, 20% enjoyed the film.
fuck them.
They're a disgrace.
However,
I reckon
on
IMDb. I reckon it's got to be less than. I reckon it's going to be like 5.8 or something.
Oh, it's 5.7.
5.7. Yeah,
it's close.
Is it?
Yeah.
There you go.
However, on Amazon, 4.7 out of 5. So,
the Amazon fans
know
know
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Finn, what are you saying?
See, I'd never done The Holiday, Love Actually, any of those until Jem, I'd say, forced me to watch them. My family ones were always Elf and Home Alone. I actually watched. I'm booked in. Jem's family booked us in around me in Stafford. There's a real life Polar Express going on. At the moment
I don't mind the Polar Express, to be fair.
I think it scared me as a kid. The animation, it freaked me out. And
So
it still
like
did,
realistic, wasn't it? For back then.
It was like Uncanny Valley. So I watched it this week, and it was another one where I knew I'd seen it, but I didn't really know what happened. And then I'm on the Polar Express on Friday, which I think is designed for children. So a little bit unnerving. But there was another one I was going to mention. Yeah, to be fair, I didn't mind Holiday and Love Actually, but I wouldn't go back to them. Home Alone, Elf, and along the same lines of Jingle All the Way. It's not. I don't know if it's necessarily a film, but I mentioned David Brent before, and Steve Merchant's one a few years ago called Click and Collect, which was about getting his
on
son.
Netflix, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime now. I searched it out the other day to watch it. It's only like 50 minutes, but superb.
It's got I forgot his name. It's got Chabuddy G in it, hasn't it?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Whether it's a film at 50 minutes long, I don't know. And I can't.
Have you watched?
Any of
there was one that was released. I've just checked 9 years ago. Seth Rogen called The Night Before. Definitely like a rental.
With when they go, they're trying to find the special Christmas party.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
I've seen that. It's a good film as well.
Yeah,
it's
but
good.
again, if you're, it's a comedy with some serious. So I'm not going to say it's a family film, so don't watch it with the kids. Basically, I would say. But
another one on that along those lines: Bad Santa and Bad Santa 2.
Yeah, there's a new Jack Black one actually that I need to watch. I think it's on Amazon. I think where he's basically Satan instead of Santa. So
he spelled it wrong on the letter.
On the letter. So
what else? I'm looking at the list. It's probably the same list you've got here, Dave. I watched that Spirited last year. It was pretty average. That Violent Night was again adult twist on a
I don't know what ones.
Christmas film, but it was pretty average. Nativity! Oh my God, I've got to mention Nativity because
Nativity's good.
And obviously, he watched my videos. I assume he watches Talking Wolves as well. Have you seen Nativity?
Yeah, I know who you're on about as well.
Yeah, Bob.
Ben. Bobby, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he played Bob. Yeah, he's a big Wolves fan.
Can we get him on a Christmas special?
Yeah,
we probably can. It was so weird. Yeah, it was at Man United away. I met him, and he was speaking to me about my videos. I went, "Can I just say your face looks really familiar?" And he was like, "Have you seen Nativity?" And I was like, "It's insane, literally." Oh, my idol. And he's also
let's get him on.
I watched Nativity at Grand Theatre a couple of weeks ago. from the Bilston Amateur Dramatic Society or whatever. It was, in live performance. No, I'll tell this. This is such a niche story. Like, people will not give a shit about this. I watched it on the Friday, I think, with my girlfriend, because she's like, one of her students was in it. She was like, do you want to go and watch the Nativity at the Grand Theatre? I thought, oh, yeah, go on there. It was like 10, 15 quid a ticket. Watched it, and it was actually really good. And the next day, I went to the darts, and I went to the Weatherspoons in Wolves after. And it was about 11 p.m. We're looking at the bar. I said, I know that bloke at the bar. I said, I don't know where. And I said to someone, I think that's Mr. Poppy, like from the show the day before. And the person with me were like, who the fuck's Mr. Poppy? And I said, oh, no, it doesn't matter. So he was like, I'm going to the toilet, walked up, and then tapped this guy. And he says, he knows who you are, Mr. Poppy. And the guy's like looking around. He's like, how do you know who I am? I said, I came and watched the show yesterday. He's like, oh my God, did you love the show? This, and this. And I was like, fucking hell, I wish I never said anything now. But yeah, Mr. Poppy, he loved it that he got recognised in Weatherspoons, Wolverhampton. So there you go.
Yeah, can we re-edit that? Nativity should be my top by a mile. That's absolute crap.
Yeah, I like Nativity, to be fair.
They really fall off. The later ones weren't great, but Nativity one is.
I reckon we have a lot of die-hard listeners and watchers, to be fair. I'm sure they'll.
Yeah, and we're not sponsored, but Bob/Ben is in the Stafford Panto this year. So go down and watch him. Great.
Yeah. Well, he could come on the pod and we'll drop him a free advertisement. Chuck us a few
tickets. As is Mark Rhodes, by the way. It's Mark Rhodes, the Wolves fan.
Oh, we'll get them all on.
Bob from Nativity. I think I'm going to nip down with my family.
Them two and Luke Bennett as well.
Oh, I'm flipping it. Anyway, that brings a new episode.
Jack and the Beanstalk, Dave.
We're not doing a Luke Bennett outro again, surely. But that is all for today. So I'm glad we've ended it on a slightly lighter note, lads. But I really, really, really hope next week we could talk about something a bit more positive, because certainly the last few weeks it's been sort of rinse and repeat, and Wolves have been in a really tricky position. But hopefully we're talking about a positive result for next week, which will be the penultimate episode before Christmas anyway. Finn, thanks for jumping on again. Hopefully we catch you soon. Where can people find you if they wish?
Just Finners on everything, FINERRZ. I've sort of gone reclusive in the last 6 months, but maybe if we start winning again, I'll put myself back.
You're back.
But yeah, it's been good to be back on. I've enjoyed that last 15 minutes. So next week, if we lose, let's just go through
about Christmas.
Yeah,
no problem. Jord, thanks for jumping on again, mate. Where can people find you if they wish?
Jord was 7 on Twitter and Instagram. No LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm at David's Party everywhere, and we are at Talking Wolves everywhere as well on all the socials. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as we're knocking on the door for 18,000 subscribers. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating. Until next time, thank you for tuning in once again to the Talking Wolves podcast. Fingers crossed for 3 points on Saturday against Ipswich. Up the Wolves.